Is it a bad thing that this doesn't feel like Star Wars? And I think that this is like a much larger conversation that probably can't get answered in like an episode review, but I'll do my best. Skeleton Crew really hasn't been feeling like a Star Wars to me, and I don't know if that's just because of the suburbia aspect of it, the meta-ness, the nostalgic bait. Like, there's so many things about it that doesn't really feel like Star Wars. Episode 5, You Have Allot to Learn About Pirates, really did not feel like Star Wars to me. But I really enjoyed this episode, and there are a lot of things about it that were really fun, and so we're going to talk about it. My name is Crystal Kyber, like the Kyber crystals in Star Wars, and I just want to hang out with you, do some makeup, and talk about Star Wars. I will try to use as much of my Star Wars makeup. And if you're ever interested in what makeup I'm using, I will have it listed in the description. But these videos aren't a tutorial. It's more about just us hanging out and talking about Star Wars. Because Skeleton Crew is kind of like our 80s nostalgia Star Wars show, I am going to be doing 80s makeup every time I talk about Skeleton Crew. I'm excited to try different makeup looks that I wouldn't normally go for. This episode starts with Wim's father and Neil's mother very awkwardly and clumsily trying to sneak codes to get access to the barrier because they're trying to get a message out to their kids. I did like how clumsy and awkward Neil and Wim's parents were. They're so by the book. It's so cookie cutter here that even this little act of rebellion for like saving their kids is just like awkward, and it's so obvious they've never had to be sneaky before. Wim's father is quickly caught by a security droid, and he's taken up to the boss's office, who just so happens to be Fern's mother. Farah, Fern's mother, explains that she's doing everything that she can, but Wim's father's like, yo, the supervisor's not doing anything, so we need to take matters into our own hands, and she quickly agrees. I feel like this scene, while it was cute, it was kind of like unnecessary in my opinion. Like, it kind of sets up a problem that gets resolved like almost instantly. To me, it feels like we could have just cut that whole part off and gotten right into the main part of the show. This opening scene kind of just felt like, oh, okay. And I feel like there's a lot of moments like that in this show. And it kind of leads me into our next scene, which is our scene with our kids and Jod and SM-33. And this scene kind of has the same issue that I just talked about, where in the previous episode, it was like this really big deal that SM-33, his like wiring got crossed. He started taking commands from his old captain, and he was like about to kill the kids. He was really scary. And in this episode, it's like immediately resolved off screen. Like, we kind of just find out KB rewiring him. Okay. It was just kind of like, oh, everything's back to normal. SM-33 is back on our side. And we didn't even see that happen. We were kind of like told it. But the scene isn't completely useless because we do get some really cute interactions between Jod and the kids. I love hearing them like banter and have like their little back and forth. I think that's something that this show has done really well. And we also find out the name of the ship and the captain. So the ship is called the Onyx Cinder, and it's Captain Renaud. Renaud. Jod is obviously very impressed. We also learn what happened to the pirates and the crew. We find out that the captain was killed by his concubine, his girlfriend. Just say his girlfriend. The crew died in the crash to Aden. So that kind of kills my idea or my theory that the captain of this pirate ship, the Onyx Cinder, is the supervisor at Aden. Like, I thought maybe he took over that role. So our skeleton crew is off to Skull Ridge Mountain, which has many names: the Demon's Rest, Battle World, and Lanupa, which is what it's called now. And it's basically like a spa. It got turned into a spa, which is so funny. I love that 33 is like, they ruined it. And I love his commentary throughout the little tour or introduction that they're getting through Lanupa. He's really just like this old man droid that's like not okay with how things changed. But I don't blame him. They kind of did gentrify it. 33 really is that pissed off grandpa. It's at this point in the episode where it really starts to not feel like Star Wars to me. It really just kind of feels like they put Star Wars things into this world that they created. It doesn't really feel like this world exists in Star Wars. There's a pretty big disconnect from me. It takes a little bit more than the iconography of Star Wars, like the design of aliens and these droids. Star Wars is more than that. You can't just take those things and put them anywhere and be like, okay, well, that's Star Wars because we have an astromech. So Jod is approached by a bounty hunter. This old acquaintance calls him Dash Zenton, which is another name for Jod. I wonder how many more names we're gonna get for him. This bounty hunter's name is Pokkit. I had some issues with the way that she looked. Her look is very jarring, and it was very distracting for me personally. I'm a professional makeup artist. I've been working in the industry for 10 years, and my experience ranges from like small e-com shoots to large international campaigns and commercials. And after spending some time like staring at this makeup, it is my professional opinion that this makeup, it feels very underdeveloped to me. The eyes, the brows, the lips, it was just all competing. Like, she has white hair. Why are her eyebrows dark? Like, does she color them in that way? I think it would have been a better decision to have her have like bleached eyebrows. If we wanted to have like some kind of shape or structure to her face, they could have did like a really light blonde on her eyebrows instead of like this stark white face, these stark white eyes, and these dark eyebrows and these dark lips. And I just have this feeling that she's missing something. Like, her head is shaved. I just felt like she needed some like tattoos on her head, or like some kind of like scales or something from like her neck back. Might not be the makeup artist's fault. It might not be anyone's fault. It could have just been like a time issue. It was like a little too much of a human wearing makeup instead of like a character alien in Star Wars. But she looked fine. For me, with my professional eye, I was just distracted. Anyways, they get their little room in the spa, and I love hearing them argue about what team they're gonna be on. I think it's so funny watching these kids be kids while Jod is like freaking out. There's a few times where this episode really did make me have a little laugh. And it's just funny having to watch Jod deal with these kids. You know, he's like this big, nasty pirate who is basically having to play babysitter. They finally make it out to the spa, and we do get a look at a HUTT. And I love seeing the HUTTs. They're so weird and gross, and I love seeing them in Star Wars. You know, I don't really collect Star Wars things except for like Star Wars makeup, but if I did collect anything, I would collect like Jabba the Hutt stuff. So the skeleton crew is on the lookout for a specific symbol that leads to the pirate's lair, the old pirate's lair. There's like a little bit of hijinks happening here, but the symbol is very quickly found by Wim and Fern. You know, they find it right away. And in my head, I feel like it wouldn't be so easy to find, but I'm understanding that that is not how this show works. Kids get the help from this big creature called Cathalop, who's like this big octopus squid alien. And I like that Cathalop smells the air, like smells Jod, and is like, hey, don't trust Jod. And then it cuts to Jod being like, hey, thanks. But what I love about this is it is Neil standing next to Jod, starts smelling him. And I think that's so cute. Neil is so cute. He's my favorite. And as this is all happening, our friend Pokkit lets the pirates know that, she has Jod. And so the pirates show up. Our skeleton crew and the pirates make their way through an elaborate maze, or a labyrinth. It's full of like riddles and booby traps and tricks. This part of the show I was really, really into. I mean, I'm really into things like this. Things like Indiana Jones and Tomb Raider and National Treasure and like video games. I was really into it. I think this is like the part of the show where I was like very, very invested in the characters and the story. This is really what I want from the skeleton crew. Like, I want to see the kids and Jod and SM-33 go to these planets and have like these kind of adventures, like figuring out puzzles, going through a maze, looking for treasure, looking for directions. Like, this screams adventure to me. I was a little disappointed that we only got like 2, or I guess it was 3 examples of like the puzzles and the traps. The pirates and the bounty hunters catch up to Jod and the kids right when the kids enter this room full of treasure. They're able to close the doors just in time, but we're met with a room full of gold. But they can't be too distracted because they're in a hurry and they need to find the location at Aden in a data pad somewhere buried in this treasure. They end up finding the data pad right away, of course. And they find a message from the old pirate captain. The pirate captain's identity is pretty well hidden at this point, so it makes me believe it's kind of a big deal. Who is the pirate captain, and is he the supervisor on Aden? But basically we find out that at Aden they make money there. And then this is where Jod turns on the kids. We all knew it was coming. The kids were just starting to trust him. He challenges Fern for the title of captain, basically to get SM-33, who has the way to get to Aden, and he doesn't really need the kids anymore. Fern's a fighter, and I wouldn't expect anything less from her. And I also thought that this is when Wim decides to step up. He finds a lightsaber, he grabs it, and he's gonna have like this big hero moment, the moment he's been waiting for his whole life, and the lightsaber flops. It was really funny, but I felt really bad for him because I really wanted Wim to have this moment, even though that is pretty unrealistic. In order to save themselves, Wim pulls a lever that sends them down, probably to like a pit or like a jail cell, and that is where we end the episode. I hate ending the episodes like this. I hate that it's like just getting to a point where we're like really invested and it's like, psych, wait till next week. Where does this leave us with our skeleton crew? Presumably the kids are in a dungeon, maybe in like a jail cell somewhere. I can't imagine like you would lay a booby trap to have it go somewhere where you're set free. I still feel like we're not really getting a lot from KB. We're on the 5th episode. We don't really know a lot about her. I think it is kind of hard to balance all these characters. Like when you have an ensemble cast, it does take a lot of orchestrating to get to know each of these characters. And unfortunately, I think that some of our characters are getting left behind, like KB, but there's still time. And while I do really enjoy this show, I do feel like it's not giving us enough of something. And maybe that is not enough time with the kids. Maybe there's not enough interactions between them, which is really unfortunate because I feel like they're doing it so well in this show. Like every time the kids are interacting with each other or with Jod or with the world around them, it has just been so good. I'm just picturing the part where the kids are just like spinning in circles in the lobby of the hotel/spa, and Jod is just like... And going back to my prompt or my question at the beginning of my video, is it a bad thing that this doesn't feel like Star Wars? And I think that this is like a much larger conversation that probably can't get answered in like an episode review, but I'll do my best. I think that Star Wars has a very specific feel. The original trilogy, Star Wars, it is very, very Star Wars. It is like the most Star Wars you can get, obviously. And I really love the prequels, but I know that people don't think that that feels very Star Wars. But to me, it does. To me, the prequels feels just as much a Star Wars as the original trilogy. I think that the sequel trilogy, even though it's not my favorite Star Wars, I think that they did a good job at capturing the feeling of Star Wars. At least the first movie, episode 7, really captured Star Wars for me. And then you have shows like The Clone Wars, which is so Star Wars. And you have like the Mandalorian season 1, so Star Wars. All these different shows and movies really expanded on the idea of Star Wars from the original trilogy. Like it all came up from up here and it all kind of like trickled down. And I think Skeleton Crew kind of has like veered way too far. Like it's kind of like lost the plot a little bit. It's kind of like what I said about the hotel or like the spa, where it feels like they took Star Wars characters, droids, costuming, and they put them in something that wasn't Star Wars. And it's like, that's not the essence of Star Wars. Star Wars is so much more than droids and costuming and makeup. And I think that this show really missed that, especially in this episode specifically. I think that this show is really fun and I'm really enjoying watching it, but I think that this show could be anything. It doesn't need to be in the future. I think the fact that it's in the future and it's Star Wars is like kind of kitschy, but like, is it a Star Wars? You know, that's my whole point. Like, is it a Star Wars? Because I think with all these other shows before, when I talk to people who have watched them, they're kind of like, well, at least we're getting Star Wars. But with Skeleton Crew, it's kind of like, is it Star Wars? Can you really say like, well, at least we're getting Star Wars? Because I think that this could just be any sci-fi. It could be any, it doesn't exclusively scream Star Wars. I think that Skeleton Crew is doing its own thing. It's like a little too aware of itself. It's a little too meta, and it's a little too much not like everything else. I don't know. It could build the Star Wars universe out more, I guess, but that's not why I watch Star Wars. Like, I watch Star Wars and I want more Star Wars content that exists within this sphere that the original trilogy created. And I don't mind things like branching out and being different, and I don't mind things expanding the universe, similar to like the way that The Mandalorian did. If there's like a circle of like what Star Wars is, and in the center is the original trilogy, and that's like the most potent Star Wars, I feel like Skeleton Crew is like way out here. It's like Tatooine. It's getting really far lost. I still like that it is like a Goonies and Indiana Jones. It has puzzles and mysteries and riddles, but I like that it has like this Star Wars-y twist. I guess I'm just wondering if that's enough. Again, I think that these questions can't really be answered in like an episode review, but I think we can start the conversation. But I feel like Star Wars is just so specific. When I watch Star Wars, I want to watch Star Wars. I don't want to just watch like a droid or an alien that I've seen before walk in the background. I don't know. Something is just missing. Maybe we've gone too far. Maybe we've flown too close to the sun. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I really like how this makeup came out. If you know anything about me, I love purple on me, so this is really fun. Anyways, I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. May the force be with you. Bye.